This is Madeline Kingsbury, a bright, vivacious, educated woman who worked at the Mayo Clinic and had 2 small children whom she adored. She went missing on March 31st, 2023.
Please help us find Madeline. The children need their mother.
Our department and our law enforcement partners are working relentlessly to find Maddie and determine the circumstances surrounding her disappearance.
Your acreage, check your outbuildings, check your vehicles, walk trails, check your cameras for any indications of anything suspicious.
There was a desperate search for her. Thousands of people came out to help search. According to an April 16th ABC7 news article, subsequent to her disappearance, her ex-boyfriend, Adam Fravel, was served with a protective order. This was in respect to the children. Let's look at the criminal complaint issued as of June 9th, 2023. Madeline's friend went to her house that day to check on Madeline because she hadn't heard from her during the day, and she normally does. She found Maddie's minivan, a 2014 dark blue Chrysler Town & Country, parked in the driveway. There was no answer at the door. She was concerned enough to call police. On March 31st, at approximately 20 hours, a friend of Madeline's phoned the Winona Police Department saying she was concerned about her friend because she hadn't heard from her all day. Note that it had only been the day. The fact that she was already worried tells you something. Most people, even when they're worried about someone, don't call the police. The fact that the friend was worried enough to actually make that call is telling. When police attended the residence, they note the minivan was in the driveway and there was no answer at the door. Police contacted Mr. Fravel and spoke with him on the phone. He said Maddie was supposed to pick up the kids from daycare after work, but she didn't. This framing leads to some questions. When and how did he learn she didn't get them? When was she supposed to pick them up? Police did enter the home and found that she was there. When they spoke with Mr. Fravel, he said he took his kids to his parents in Mabel, which is approximately 1 hour away. The daycare provider confirmed that both Maddie and Adam were present when they dropped off the children, but Fravel was alone when he came to pick up the kids at the end of the day. Note the absence of indication that the daycare needed to call Mr. Fravel because Ms. Kingsbury didn't show or was late. There was no comment made about her being late to pick up the kids. That will be answered shortly. On April 1st, a search warrant was obtained for Madeline's residence. The police found no overt signs of struggle. There was some clutter. They found her cell phone and the jacket she'd worn that morning, along with her purse, inside the house. And remember, her vehicle was still in the driveway. Aside from the fact something is obviously amiss, this tells police that probably either she came home before disappearing, or whoever disappeared her put her belongings back. The alternate explanation would be as if she walked out on her own and wanted to disappear, but there is zero indication of that. Police also found the laptop she used to work from home. She worked in Rochester, which is about 50 minutes to an hour away. The days she worked in the office were Mondays and Fridays. She worked from home the rest of the time. March 31st was a Friday. On April 1st and 2nd, police had conversations with Mr. Fravel. He confirmed that he and Ms. Kingsbury had an on and off relationship for 7 years. That raises questions too. Why was it on and off? What was the history? What were the dynamics? They had 2 children together, ages 5 and 2. Madeline was the primary income earner. She would forward money to him electronically so he could pay the bills. So, of course, that's got me curious. According to LinkedIn, it appears that Mr. Fravel worked in IT, but that he didn't work for a particular company. Rather, he obtained contracts. It would be interesting to know how stable his income was and what his employment history was like. Was it spotty? And their on and off relationship, did that in any way correlate with times when he had money versus times when he didn't? I'm not stating anything here. I'm asking the question. Was this arrangement where she would forward him money and he would pay bills? Was that a thing they had agreed upon? How did that agreement come about? Was he responsible with it? Did he actually pay the bills? Were the bills in his name or her name or both? Did he use the money for the purposes for which it was intended? Do the financial records of both parties line up with what Mr. Fravel is saying? Mr. Fravel said that recently their relationship was not working. So they decided to separate and were moving out. I would really like his actual statement because recently and not working matters. And how this comes out matters. What does recent mean? They're at the point of moving. And when you build a life with kids, it usually takes a bit to get up to that decision point. If the relationship wasn't working, did they still manage to co-parent? Was it usual for them to drop off the kids together? Why, on this day, did he go with her to drop off the kids? Fravel said that Madeline was moving out, that she was looking for apartments for her and the kids. If she's leaving, he can't stay there because she provides the money for the bills. When did they move in there? Was that a place they chose together? Or did one move in with the other? Leaving is the most dangerous time. Fravel claimed that Madeline told him 2 weeks ago she started a new relationship with another man. You know, she can't dispute anything he says. Is there any corroboration to this? This sounds like a lie to misdirect. If it is something he believed or suspected, that's a red flag because that means she was at risk. However, it's common for offenders to paint victims in a negative light. And saying that a woman was with another man or having an affair is a common insinuation. Whether he believed it or not, whether he worried about the future possibility of that or not, doesn't really matter in a sense. Sometimes what looks like jealousy is not actually jealousy. Even after a breakup, even when it's the offending party who left, which is not what happened in this case, they can act jealous. And it's confusing to people. And the reason it's confusing is because it's not really jealousy. It's about ownership and control. But it sounds like this may well have been a misdirection. Mr. Fravel said they dropped off the kids at approximately 8 a.m. He says that Maddie had an online meeting and then she planned to go to work in Rochester. Did she ever attend that online meeting? Did she have an online meeting? If she was planning on going into work, was she already dressed for work? He says he saw her go downstairs to her home office. Then he launches into this thing about what he planned to do that day. Property storage runs most of the day. That was his plan. I wish we had his actual statement. How this came out matters. We've gone from him seeing her go downstairs to now he's talking about his plans. This sounds like hiding time. This sounds like a narrative explanation. So he's talking about his plans. So what? So what actually happened? Plans and actual events are different. Why the talk of plans at all? The mother of his children is missing. He mentions he stopped at a gas station. He says he started driving toward Mabel at 10:15 a.m. Why this detail about the gas station? Was he asked? What has been skipped over here? He saw Maddie go downstairs and now it's suddenly 2 hours later? She went downstairs and then what? Was her meeting 2 hours? Did she do anything in preparation to leave for Rochester? Where was he? He's hiding time. He said he planned to go to Mabel with items he wanted to store at his parents, and then return to Winona and take items to Midwest Storage in Winona. We're still hearing about his plans. His plans. This is explanatory narrative. He's telling a story and misdirecting and hiding time. So he says prior to leaving Mabel, he stopped at a gas station. And then he goes on to talk about how he wasn't paying attention to what he was loading in the van when he was leaving. The story's out of order. Or is it? Aside from the narrative explanation, the unnecessary weird little detail, hiding time, the story seems to be out of order. It doesn't make sense. that you would go get gas and then come back and load up a van. Note the absence of mention of police seeing boxes of moving supplies in the house. If he wanted to store items, were they not packed and labeled? He said it was a plan, so what preparation was done? Where are the boxes or bags or whatever he used to pack these items? And what items? Did the items go to storage? Was the storage arranged in advance? If you're driving a distance to take something somewhere, why would you not pay attention to what you're loading? Notice he had her vehicle on a day when she planned to drive into work. If this is legit, they would have had to arrange that in advance. Did she mention this to the friend she talked to every day? Were his car keys found in or near her purse? Which vehicle did he use to go get the kids? He stated when he got to Choice in Fillmore County, he started thinking about what he was going to do. Oh, I really want to see his actual statement, because if this is how he put it, then he was thinking about what to do with her. Anyway, he claims he realized he brought the wrong items, so he turned around in Choice in Fillmore County. He says he turned around in a driveway of a barn and drove back home. Well, hang on. Choice is only 15 minutes away from Mabel. And why does he drive back to his residence, not the storage unit? I thought his plan was to take some things to Mabel for storage and also to a storage unit in Winona. And why is he storing things in two different places? He says he looked back into the back of his van and that's when he realized he had the wrong items. If he had the items that were supposed to go into storage in Winona, why not go to the storage unit in Winona then? Why go home? He says he got back to the residence at 11:30 and emptied the van. Why? It's loaded. So why unload it if you're going to have to reload it again to take it to storage? I'll tell you why. He's lying. He claims he didn't make any stops to or from Choice. He said when he got back, he didn't see Madeline when he entered the home. He said he did notice his car still there and thought maybe she carpooled to Rochester. He said he texted her and didn't hear back. Did Madeline carpool to Rochester in the past? Why didn't she say she was going to do that? The text, I think he's setting it up to look good. He claims he stayed home the rest of the day. Well, what happened to his plans for storage that he's now behind on? What did he do all day? He says he eventually went downstairs and she was not there. Well, hang on. Why did he go downstairs? Was he looking for her? He thinks she went to Rochester. He said he texted about picking up the kids and plans for supper, but that she didn't respond. So he decided he'd better go pick up the kids. Well, that answers the question from earlier. The daycare didn't need to call to say she was late because he went and picked up kids. But why would he assume that she's not picking up the kids? Was she often late coming home from work? If so, did she not call normally? Had she ever just not picked up the kids and not made arrangements? Why this conclusion on his part? We know that she didn't just abandon her kids in the past. We know she did not neglect her kids or fail to make arrangements. So was he not concerned? He's eager to give explanatory narrative, has no problem alleging there's another man. So if abandoning her children was a regular thing, he'd have said so. But it was not a thing at all. Why wasn't he worried about her? I think we know why. He just texted about supper plans. She's not there, so he's just going to drive those kids an hour away? Why? Because he wasn't worried. Not for her. He knew where she was. If the whole family was gone, it might take some time for anyone to call police looking for Maddie. He didn't count on her friend making that call. Fravel admitted to being infatuated with the Gabby Petito case, and he admitted that he told Maddie if she didn't listen up, she'd end up like Petito. He claims he was joking. It's not funny. This tells us about his thinking. This shows us that at least the idea of homicide was already in his head at the time he made the comment. In 2020 or 2021, while on a video call with Maddie, her friend witnessed Adam yell at her, then strike her in the face while she was holding the baby. I don't need to tell you how bad this is. I do want to point out that there is a sadistic element to it. This is not a matter of being in the midst of a fight. He just walked in and did that to her while she's holding her baby, while she can't defend herself. The same witness said there were several times when she saw bruises on Maddie. A family member learned that Fravel had put his hands around Maddie's throat. The family went to get her. They saw red marks around her neck. This is a proven warning sign of future homicide. I cannot state this strongly enough. Strangulation always calls for immediate and strong intervention. No wait and see, no hoping for things to change. When things have escalated to that point, the clock is ticking, and nobody knows whether the time's up that day, one day later, a year later, but it's just too risky to wait another minute. Police found 2 cell phones that belonged to Maddie. She had taken screenshots dating back numerous years. This tells you something too. She knew she had a problem. A screenshot of a conversation between her and Fravel on September 21st, 2021. Maddie, you know, I'm not really okay with or over the fact that you put your hand around my neck and pushed me down in front of the kids earlier, so don't. The kids witnessed the abuse. This causes serious psychological damage to children. There are books written on it. There's a whole field of study on this. Maddie, not okay with that at all, but especially with them there. Fravel's answer, you'll adjust. Absolute expectation, she will put up with it. Zero interest in anyone's well-being, not even his children. Never mind any empathy. This is a power play. He's exerting his power and his dominance. He is treating her like an object. She says, the F I will. She says, you do that again without asking me and you can go somewhere else. He says, you got it, mother. He's so glib and demeaning in his response. Maddie, don't patronize me. That crossed a line. Fravel, then mind. She must obey. She's nothing. Total devaluation. He's letting her know that he doesn't care what she threatens. He is going to do what he wants. He is completely dismissive of her. This is extreme level stuff right here. And this was back in 2021. I can't say on YouTube the words I want to say about his attitude, about his behavior, about his treatment of her. However, I can say the word disgusting. I can say loser. I can say pathetic. This is who he is. He's showing her and everybody else now who he is. I understand he is innocent until proven guilty, but whether he is convicted or acquitted, you know now who he is, and that will not change with a verdict. Now we get into the video timeline. 0944 at Maddie's residence, a person in a light-colored coat removes the front license plate from Maddie's van. 9:44 a.m. She was last seen at 8:05 dropping off the kids. By 9:44, she was already dead or incapacitated. At 9:47, this same person reinstalls a different license plate on the van. At 9:55, the person gets into the van. At 10, the van is no longer at the residence. At 10:02, the van is at the gas station. A person, same description as before, which, by the way, matches Adam Fravel's description, is seen pumping gas into the van. The license plates on the van are the ones for Fravel's car. Later, his plates end up back on his car, and Maddie's plates are back on the van. This 10 o'clock time frame at the gas station matches with what Adam told police. He had the presence of mind to get gas first. I mean, you can't be, having your car in a gas station while there's a body in there. Somebody might see. Normally, when you go on a trip somewhere, you load up your vehicle, you stop for gas on the way, and then you continue on. He didn't. And as for the plates, there is no innocent explanation for this. He was actively covering his crime. At 10:31, the van is observed backed in to the driveway of the residence. This is why he had to make up the story about storage, because she normally did not back her van into the driveway. At 11:26 a.m., the van is driving away from the residence. The time is significant. He says he left and started driving toward Mabel at 10:15 a.m., purposely misdirecting investigators. He told investigators he stopped for gas. He knew they would check. He knew he would be on surveillance. He knew the time would say 10. He thought this would confuse them about the timeline. At 11:44, a van matching the description of Maddie's was observed traveling southbound on Highway 403 in the direction of Rushfield and Mabel. At 11:56, the same van was seen on Highway 43 in Rushford going toward Mabel. 11:59, Highway 43 again toward Choice and Mabel. At 12:44, 45 minutes later, the van is now observed on the same stretch of road, but heading northbound. Remember, he claimed he didn't make any stops? He didn't make it all the way to Mabel, according to him. He says he stopped and turned around in Choice. So he can't say later that, oh, well, I just went to my parents' house. 45 minutes, what was he doing? It only takes an hour to go all the way to Mabel. 3 guesses on what he was doing. At 12:47, he was northbound on 43 in Rushford. At 1300 hours northbound on 43, he turned east onto Winona County Road 12. At 13:28, the van is in the driveway of the residence. On June 7th, 2023, at around 13:30 hours, a deputy with the Fillmore County Sheriff's Office was searching a rural area in Fillmore County next to a public gravel road, which was low maintenance, 1 mile from Highway 43 between Choice and Mabel.
Good afternoon. I'm Winona Police Chief Tom Williams. We are here today to announce that human remains were found yesterday in Fillmore County. This morning, the Southern Minnesota Regional Medical Examiner's Office performed an autopsy. Law enforcement has confirmed the remains are those of Madeline Kingsbury. Unfortunately, while this discovery is not what we were hoping for, we are thankful to be able to bring Maddie home to her family. Her body was found by a Fillmore County investigator on a remote stretch of road off Highway 43 north of Mabel at approximately 1:30 p.m. yesterday afternoon. Digital evidence collected by investigators led us to this area. The area had been previously searched, but Maddie's body was covered and concealed in such a manner that she was not visible.
It's important to note, because apparently there have been rumors, that the property where they were searching did not belong to the Fravel family. However, the property was routinely maintained by one or more Fravel family members. The property was near the residence of Fravel's parents. This is where Maddie was found by that deputy. The family and Adam Fravel are familiar with that property. If they were seen on or near that property, they wouldn't be questioned. They would fit in there. Adam had said he was driving in Choice and thinking about what he was going to do in respect to storing property. And that didn't really make sense. If he'd already planned to take items to his parents and was almost there, why have to think about what he's doing? It's a pretty mundane kind of task. It doesn't require a lot of thought. It's because he wasn't thinking about storage. He was mentally running through what he was about to do with Maddie's body. He'd said he looked to the rear of the van and realized he'd brought the wrong items. He looked to the rear of the van all right. He was glancing back there at her. And about planning, I strongly suspect this was premeditated. He had a plan, but it wasn't to move personal belongings. Then again, he views her as a thing. Why did he accompany her to drop off those kids? What, if anything, Did the Fravel family know, and when did they know it? Reports are that they didn't participate in the searches for Maddie. Why? The remains were wrapped in a gray-fitted bedsheet that had been closed with Gorilla Tape. A roll of Gorilla Tape had been found at the Kingsbury residence. While it's true that this tape is common, it's still possible to forensically match it to the roll. Remember, a match is a possibility only. So if we later hear the word inconclusive, it simply means inconclusive. Investigators also noted that the sheet was similar to other bedding at the Winona residence. Also, on top of the air mattress from the residence were 2 pillows with gray pillowcases, and the gray fitted sheet was missing. The medical examiner noted a knotted towel had been wrapped around Maddie's head and neck. While this could have been done during homicide instead of after, I don't think so. Some offenders will cover the face out of a kind of remorse, but I don't think that's what this is. The reason I say that is that Fravel was sadistic. He enjoyed causing her pain, as demonstrated by the incident where he suddenly walked in and struck her while she's making dinner. He liked exerting power. We know now that he was utterly devoid of remorse or empathy. He demonstrated this via his text to her in September 2021. I think that if someone was to dig into his past far enough and look closely enough, they would find other women who have been victimized by him. This is that kind of personality. Right now, he's innocent until proven guilty, but even if he's acquitted, he still is what he is. This man is dangerous. Mr. Fravel has been charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder. Here is the explanation of the charges and why they were laid the way they were.
I'm Winona County Attorney Karen Sonneman, and I'm here today to announce my office filed charges against Adam Taylor Fravel for the murder of Madeline Kingsbury. My team and I are committed to seeking justice for Maddie and her family. We have charged Mr. Fravel with second-degree intentional murder and second-degree unintentional murder. Some of you may be wondering why my office did not charge first-degree murder against Mr. Fravel at this time. Let me explain the law in Minnesota. In order to charge first-degree murder, a prosecutor must present the case before a grand jury, and the grand jury decides whether there is probable cause to support an indictment for first-degree murder. Because this case remains an active and ongoing law enforcement investigation, we may seek additional charges in the future. At this time, it's my understanding that Mr. Fravel remains in custody. The judge this morning set his bail at $2 million unconditional and $1 million conditional.
I want to say, let's hope for justice for Maddie, but the truth is, there can never be justice for her. She had a bright future. She had children she adored and who adored her. She had a sister and parents and family and friends and colleagues and community members. And everything was ripped from all of them. So there's no justice unless somebody can bring her back and restore it all. But we can hope for accountability, and that includes anyone who might have tried to help Mr. Fravel get away with this. I'm not saying that happened. That's all I got for you today. Trust your gut. I'll see you in the comments.